Well, the people receiving the money want to keep receiving the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes. So, but, I mean, the reason I'm putting so much effort into this is that I think it is a very dire situation. It's not it's not optional, basically. So, yeah, America's going bankrupt, so that just can't happen.
It's just bizarre to me that some people aren't willing to look at it correctly. They're not willing to see like how much chaos this is, how much waste and fraud there is, how much can be trimmed, and how much. Just because people have jobs doing bullshit doesn't mean your tax dollar should pay for this bullshit.
Yes. We found just with a basic search of the Social Security database that there were 20 million dead people marked as alive.
But were they getting money?
Some of them are getting money.
What percentage of them?
It isn't clear. We're actually trying to run this ground. I was trying to get an answer right before the show. What it looks like is that most of the fraud is not coming from Social Security payments directly, but because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database, that they can get disability, unemployment, sort of fake medical payments, and other things because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database.
Mm.
So it looks like it's a bank. The fraud is a bank shot, essentially. They bank shot into Social Security. They just do an "Are you alive?" check, and then get fraudulent payments from every other part of the government.
Oh.
Yeah. And this exploits the fundamental weakness in the government is that the various government databases, they don't talk to each other. So they talk to each other very poorly in a very limited way. So the way that the system gets exploited is by taking advantage of the poor communication between the various databases in the government. To give you an example of like what's happening, say, Treasury, which is improving rapidly. The main payments computer is called PAM, like payment accounts master database or something like that. But everyone calls it PAM. That's responsible for almost $5 trillion of payments a year, roughly $1 billion an hour. And when we came there, we're looking at this PAM, and it's like the payments have no. You could put a payment through with no payment categorization code, and no description on the payment. Like basically untraceable blank checks. This is the kind of thing that if it was done as a public company, the company would be immediately delisted and the executive team would be thrown in prison. But this is just normal at the government. So we said, okay, our recommendation to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve is like we need to make the payment categorization codes mandatory, not optional, and there needs to be an explanation. We're not judging the quality of the explanation, but there should be some explanation for what this payment is for above nothing. That's a radical change to the system that is being implemented now. My guess is that probably saves $100 billion a year.
Jesus Christ.
That's
where was that money going?
Rough order of magnitude.
Where was that money going?
Well, so this is where you get into the sort of gray boundary between waste and fraud. If money is sent to a person or organization from the government, and you didn't really deserve it, but the government still sent it to you, is that waste or fraud?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of payments where someone just approved the payment, but then that payment officer changed jobs or retired or died, and the payments just keep going. You know, it's like if you forget to pay your gym membership or something like that.
Right.
Now imagine it's not the gym membership. You said your gym membership's $20 billion a year or something, you know. But they forgot to turn it off. That's happening at scale in the government.
Jesus
It's totally
Christ,
nuts, is what I'm saying.
So insane.
Yes, it's totally insane. So
What did you expect when you went in? Did you
I
expect
thought
it would be like
bad.
this?
I thought it would be bad, but I did not think it would be as bad as this. I mean, look, the good news is that it's a target-rich environment for saving money. It's not like if it was a very well-run ship, if it was very efficient, it would be hard to improve. But it's not efficient, so therefore it is actually relatively easy to improve. Let's just say it's not rocket science. I know rocket science. So it's a lot of mundane things. And some of the things are like so crazy that we didn't even know to ask about that because we just assumed payments out of the Treasury computer would have a payment categorization code and they would have some explanatory note saying what the payment's for. The idea that it would be just untraceable blank checks didn't occur to us at first.
Jesus.
So anyway,
This episode is brought to you by NetSuite. What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market. Until someone invents a crystal ball, over 41,000 businesses are future-proofing their operations with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, NetSuite gives you a single source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick, confident decisions. Plus, real-time insights and forecasting let you peer into the future with actionable data. When you can close the books in days, not weeks, you spend less time looking back and more time at what's next. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning for free at netsuite.com/Rogan. So is that one of the things that accounts to this? There's this something trillion dollars that's kind of, they don't know where it went. They don't know.
I think that's probably a cumulative number.
Yes.
So, if you add up, it's.
Do you remember that story, Jamie?
Yeah.
What was the story?
Almost what you said. There's they just didn't have accounting for it, I think.
Yeah, it was spent on legitimate things. Don't worry, but we don't know what we spent it on.
Well, I mean, how do you know? Obviously, one cannot say it was spent legitimately if they don't know what it was spent on. That doesn't make any sense. This
is such a fascinating time because with this setup, the way it is right now, with Trump back in after all that happened to him, and with you there, and with RFK Jr. and Tulsi and Kash Patel, it's like this is a wild time. To find out what's really going on. That's never happened before. This is nothing like the first term.
No.
Like the first term, he had a bunch of neocons in the cabinet, and there's a bunch of shady people that he didn't know, and he had to appoint all these different people, and maybe he got some bad picks. Now he's had 4 years to stew on it.
Right.
And with you guys all going through this, we're getting an understanding of the government that we've literally never had before.
Yeah, this is a revolutionary cabinet. And maybe the most revolutionary cabinet since the first revolution. This is not a bunch of business as usual types. So this is why some of the Senate confirmations were quite challenging, is because when you try to appoint people who are going to change the system, the system doesn't want to let them through.
But it's fascinating because it's like the vampires all out themselves. Like now everybody knows who the system is. Like if you're just lying openly about U.S. aid and then they come and hear you talk on a podcast and explain what's really going on, like he's starving mothers. There's mothers that can't get food.
Totally false.
That's all you're hearing.
Yeah.
That's no one's talking in any of these mainstream liberal talk shows. No one is talking about all this fraud and waste.
Yeah, because we're cutting off their graft machine. So that's what they're upset about. That's the real thing they're upset about. And if people want to know what Doge is cutting, and I want to be clear, these are cuts that Doge recommends to the department, and usually these recommendations are followed. But these are recommendations that are then confirmed by the department. You can see line by line what Doge has done at doge.gov. So whatever we do, we put on doge.gov so you can see everything that is being done.
And there's a tracker that shows
Yeah.
how much money has been saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can look at each line item, and like a bunch of these sort of far left shows will say like, oh, it's a constitutional crisis, blah blah blah. But what they won't do is point out which payments are wrong.
Right.
So my challenge to them is point out which payments are wrong.
Yeah. Go through it.
Which of these sort of waste/fraud things are wrong? Which line? Explain that line to the public. They won't
Right.
be able to.
Right. Yeah, that's why you're not hearing any specifics. You're
That's
hearing
why no
anecdotal
specifics.
stories about mothers
But
starving.
we can name the specifics
Yeah.
line by line.
And
We got the receipts.
And here's the other thing. If
We
you're
post the receipts.
And if you're only talking about the propaganda
Yeah.
talking points and you're not talking about the very clear fraud and waste,
Yeah.
it's very obvious what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just gaslighting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So exactly, because we're saying, like, look, in fact, I've said we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. So if we make a mistake, we'll quickly fix it. So we'll we need to act fast. So stop wasting billions of dollars of taxpayer money. But if we make a mistake, we'll reverse it quickly.
Right.
So.
There's also this
Just-
interesting narrative that you shouldn't have access to this Social Security information, as if no one's had access to it before, as if the Biden administration in 2023 there was like 53 people, some of them were students, that had access to all this stuff.
Yeah. As it is, there are tens of thousands of federal employees that have access already to the system. Anyone from Doge has to go through the same vetting process that those federal employees went through. So it's not like some unvetted random situation. If, for example, there's a security clearance needed, the Doge person has to have that same security clearance. So there's no reduction in security. But I mean, obviously the vast numbers of Social Security numbers have leaked onto the internet. People have hacked the government systems multiple times. Vast amounts of public information has been hacked and dumped onto the internet. So, I mean, there's a guy at the IRS that leaked 500,000 tax returns just a few years ago.
On purpose?
Yeah.
For what reason?
For political, he wanted to. I think he was trying to get at Trump and maybe me and a few others. But he stole like 500,000 tax returns. Yeah, like not a few, like it's a lot of tax returns.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that story. Now I
Yeah, you
remember
can just
it. Yeah.
you just read about it online. It's a real thing.
So these are the narratives. That's the narrative that you shouldn't have access to Social Security. The other narrative is that starving people are going to die and women aren't going to be pregnant and not have nutrients for their babies, and that's all you're hearing. And
Yeah, well, that's the only thing they can say, but they can't point to the line item.
right.